He didn't walk into the bank, he tunneled into history and vanished into legend. It started, as these things often do, with silence. No sirens, no gunshots, no ski masks or shouted threats, just a quiet warehouse on a quiet street in a quiet Brazilian city that had no idea what was coming. August 2005, Fortaleza, sun, sweat, and the scent of salt from the Atlantic, a place where time moved slowly, but one man was racing against it. His name was Antonio Jusivan Alves dos Reis. To the neighbors, he was just another guy with a landscaping business, smiling, quiet, paid his rent on time. They had no clue he was planning one of the boldest heists in human history. Not into a bank, but under it. From the front, his warehouse looked like a struggling lawn supply shop. Inside, a tunnel, not a little hole in the ground, a full-blown underground highway, 78 meters long, leading straight to the vault of the Central Bank of Brazil. No one heard the drills. No one saw the dirt leave. They worked in shifts, day and night. They installed lighting, ventilation, even reinforced the walls with wooden beams like a miniature subway system, all beneath the feet of an entire city. But before that, before the tunnel and the plan and the $1 million escape, there was a man, a dream, and a system he didn't believe in anymore. He'd tried the straight life, really, he had. Born into poverty, raised by hardship, Antonio was a man who learned early that the rules weren't written for people like him, so he rewrote them, quietly, carefully, like a novelist plotting his masterpiece, underground. And somewhere in that silence, as the ground beneath the city trembled just enough to make history, a team of men became ghosts. Because you don't just rob a central bank, you vanish through the floor and pray no one sees you coming back up. Antonio didn't dream small. Where others saw walls, he saw angles. Where others saw alarms, he saw distractions. And where others saw an impossible vault buried beneath the city, he saw opportunity. He wasn't a brute. He wasn't a thug with a gun and a getaway car. He was an architect of silence, a strategist. And in his mind, if you were going to steal, you might as well steal history. So he built a team, not of criminals, not in the traditional sense, but electricians, engineers, geologists, even a former police officer. Each chosen not for loyalty, but for skills. Over the course of months, he assembled them like chess pieces. Men with debts, men with desperation, and men with dreams bigger than their budgets. They didn't know the full picture, not at first. Antonio told them just enough, a landscaping project, a private job. They thought they were digging irrigation trenches, until the first one saw the blueprint. It wasn't a garden, it was a tunnel, angled precisely to pass beneath 2 city blocks and directly under the Central Bank of Brazil. The vault sat 7 meters underground, but with the right slope, the right tools, and enough time, you could arrive beneath it, unnoticed. That was the genius. They didn't need to break in. They needed to arrive under. They rented the warehouse 3 blocks away, legally, on paper, registered the business, paid taxes. It was the perfect cover. They worked for 3 months, sifting dirt by hand, using plastic buckets to move soil, only ever at night, only ever in silence. No explosives, no heavy machinery, nothing to draw attention. They lined the tunnel with wooden beams, installed air vents, used GPS and laser levels to stay on track. This wasn't desperation, it was engineering, and to keep spirits up, Antonio paid everyone like clockwork, sometimes in cash, sometimes in cars, sometimes in promises. But every man had one thing in common: they believed they would walk away millionaires. And maybe, just maybe, that belief was the most dangerous part, because belief keeps you digging, even when you can't see the light. It happened on a Friday night, August 5th, 2005. Fortaleza was quiet, hot, humid, and half asleep from the heat. Inside the central bank, the lights were off. No guards in the vault room, no motion sensors below the floor, because why would there be? No one expected an invasion from the underworld. Beneath 7 meters of concrete and steel, the team waited, caked in dirt, muscles sore, hands blistered raw. But tonight was the finish line. The tunnel was complete, 78 meters long, reinforced, hidden, directly under 160 million reales in used, untraceable banknotes, stored in the vault, ready for destruction. Notes the government didn't bother to track. At 11:30 p.m., the first crack split the concrete vault floor. They worked in shifts, drilled upward, slowly, no sparks, no vibrations. They broke through, hand by hand, a hole no bigger than a manhole cover. At 3:12 a.m., the first man climbed into the vault. No alarms, no motion detectors, just silence. And cash. 5 containers, 3.5 tons of bills, $160 million, the equivalent of nearly $70 million USD dollars. They passed the money down the tunnel, bucket by bucket, stack by stack, hand to hand, no noise, no rush, no panic. It took them 10 hours. 10 hours to empty the vault of every last bill, leaving behind only dust and a gaping hole. They didn't take coins. They didn't touch anything else, just paper. When they sealed the tunnel and locked the warehouse door, it was as if they'd never been there at all. Saturday came, then Sunday. No one noticed. Not until Monday morning, when a bank employee unlocked the vault and stared down into nothing. 3.5 tons, gone. No broken doors, no shattered glass, just a hole in the floor, and the kind of silence that follows a perfect crime. But perfection is temporary, and silence, it never lasts. By Monday afternoon, panic echoed through every hallway of the central bank. Vault floor breached, $70 million missing, no witnesses, no alarms, no suspects. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed the money. But the silence didn't last. Police swarmed Fortaleza. Forensics teams crawled into the hole like ants into a hive. And the moment they emerged in that fake landscaping warehouse 3 blocks away, the illusion collapsed. There were footprints, shovel marks, fingerprints, even empty pizza boxes from late-night shifts. Antonio had planned the crime like a perfectionist, but he hadn't planned the exit. He'd promised the crew they'd be gone by the time the vault was discovered, that they'd be ghosts scattered across the country. But something went wrong. Maybe greed, maybe ego, maybe the sheer weight of 3.5 tons of dirty cash. Because instead of disappearing, some of them started spending, lavishly, recklessly, like men who thought they were untouchable. A brand new car here, a flashy Rolex there, real estate deals in cash. And in Brazil, nothing attracts the cops faster than someone suddenly rich without a reason. Within days, the feds had formed a task force, dozens of officers, interagency coordination. It became national news, the heist of the century. They found the first man within 2 weeks, and he talked. He talked a lot. Names, locations, even how the tunnel was dug. One confession opened the door, and a dozen arrests followed. The cracks spread fast. Some ran, some flipped, some tried to hide behind fake names and forged passports. But the money was harder to trace. Unmarked, used bills, no serials, no GPS. They found less than a fraction of what was stolen. Antonio, he vanished, gone without a shadow. Not a single confirmed sighting, just rumors, whispers, and one cold, terrifying truth. The man who dug through a city was now buried by it. Fortaleza was no longer quiet. By late August, the streets buzzed with journalists, investigators, and federal agents. Brazil wasn't just embarrassed, it was humiliated. This wasn't some back alley robbery. It was a full-scale assault on the national banking system, and no one saw it coming. The fallout hit hard. The central bank tightened every vault in the country. Dozens of internal officials were questioned, some quietly replaced, others suspended. But the real pressure was on the streets. The media called it the crime of the decade. The public called it something else, a revolution. To the poor, Antonio was a folk hero, a man who cracked the system and walked out richer than any politician. To the police, he was a ghost, taunting them with every day he stayed gone. Over the next year, more than 30 people were arrested. Some confessed, others maintained their innocence. And yet, the money was still missing, all but a tiny portion, hidden in walls, buried in yards, scattered across cities like breadcrumbs that led to nowhere. Then, in 2008, 3 years later, Antonio was found. Not by a SWAT team, not in a foreign country. He was arrested in Sao Paulo, casually living under a fake name, driving a modest car, wearing cheap clothes, no sign of millions, no grand mansion, just a man who looked tired. In custody, he was quiet, polite, smiling even. He admitted to masterminding the heist, proudly. But when asked about the money, it's gone. That's all he said. The courts gave him nearly 50 years, a symbolic sentence, Brazil's message to anyone watching, but the system couldn't punish what it couldn't find. The tunnel? Gone, collapsed. The warehouse? Bulldozed. And the fortune? It had vanished, just like he had. The legend, though? That stayed. Antonio Jusivan Alves dos Reis will die in prison. That much is certain. But the rest? The rest is shadows. To this day, the Central Bank of Brazil has never recovered even half of the money. Some say it was smuggled out of the country. Others believe it was laundered through construction firms, fake companies, and crooked politicians. There are whispers of cash buried in the jungle, rumors of middlemen who disappeared just before they could talk, but no one knows for sure. And maybe that's the point, because in the end, this wasn't just about money. It was about control, precision, patience. Antonio didn't walk in with guns blazing. He didn't wear a mask or shout orders. He simply dug, quietly, steadily, until the system cracked. And what he left behind wasn't just an empty vault. It was a question. If a man can steal $70 million and disappear underground, what else is possible beneath our feet? Now, the tunnel is filled with concrete. The warehouse is gone. But the story? It keeps resurfacing. In classrooms, in police briefings, in whispered bar conversations from Fortaleza to São Paulo. Because legends don't need a happy ending. They just need an open ending. And Antonio? He gave Brazil both. Thanks for watching. And remember, some men rob banks, others build their own door beneath one. Catch you in the next one. Until then, stay sharp and stay free.